sometimes you don't always know exactly why you're here on this earth. And I do think also that there's an evolution of that purpose and reason.
Yeah.
And I am so desperately afraid that I don't become everything that I'm supposed to become in order to have the impact that I'm supposed to have.
Yeah. When you're going to heaven and when you finally meet God, and if God had this like totally different person that you should have been, that you would have been if you would have like done everything you're supposed to do, I think that is like you tearing up. Aww. You okay?
Yeah, it's true though.
Yeah. I think that's your driving source, and I think that's a great one. I think that's a healthy one, you know.
Christmas socks on?
I do.
Oh,
Look
that's so good.
Yeah.
Santa drinking.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. Are you alone? Are you alone? She's like, yeah, why? With like the eyes, you know. Ooh. I'm like, are you sitting down because you're about to be turned on? She's like, what the heck is going on?
Eyes, fire. I was like, what are we getting?
I was like, guess what I'm doing? And I was like, I'm working on QuickBooks.
It's like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Candy Valentino Show. I'm so glad that you're tuning in with me today. And if you are watching this on the day it comes out, Merry Christmas to you and your family. And when I was thinking about what could I possibly do for the Christmas episode of the show because it falls on a Monday, I was thinking about doing something about contribution and gratitude and the real reason for the season. But since I did something similar to that on Thanksgiving and we have a more maybe emotional episode coming up for the new year, I thought let's do something fun for the Christmas episode. And I don't normally share a lot of my real life on this show or even so much on social media. So this is your opportunity to get to meet my family on Christmas. My fiance is here with us, and we're going to do some fun questions that we don't normally talk about here on the show. So thanks for coming, babe.
You're welcome. Where am I supposed to look? Am I supposed
You're
to
just
look
going to look at me
Okay,
the whole
all
time.
right. Well, that's perfect. That's great.
So
this is great.
We're just going to do these questions that Lauren prepared. We don't really know what they are. I think we were kind of peeking.
Yeah, I think I grabbed one, but to be honest with you, I forget what it even said. That was like 2 nights ago.
So who knows how this is going to turn out, but this is just going to share a little bit more about the behind the scenes life. So
all right.
Who wants to go first?
Ladies first.
All right. And then we'll just throw them on the floor when we're done. Okay. Who is more romantic, and what is the most romantic thing your partner ever did for you?
Whew. Who's the most romantic, and what's the most romantic thing that you ever did for me? Mm-hmm. I think that we go in phases. Like, I think, you know what I mean? I don't think either one of us could be labeled as more romantic. I think I have my moments and you have your moments. Mm-hmm. I think when the relationship started out that you did a lot more like sweet and romantic things. Not that I didn't, but like, you know, you had a different level to it, right? But I think as we have progressed, I think it's kind of equaled out a little bit. And I've, you know, I think I've been fairly romantic in my end. I guess you can answer that better. But as far as most romantic thing that you've ever done, man, there's a lot of things. Probably when I thought one of the coolest things that we ever did together was when you planned our trip to Chicago. And I know since then we've been to like so many like bigger, different, cooler places than Chicago. But that particular trip I thought was really cool because we had dinner on like that top floor at the Trump restaurant.
Tower,
yeah. Mm-hmm. And overlooking the city, and then remember the fireworks at night. Mm-hmm. And we had the bottle of champagne, and you organized that whole thing. So that was really cool. And I think actually that was early on in our relationship. So I think that kind of made me like, oh shoot, like I better, if I'm gonna be staying with this one, I better step my game up a little bit. So yeah,
and you do, to your credit. Like I do think that's exactly what happened. I think I've always been the most romantic, but I think what's so different and unique with you is you picked up on how that felt, and rather than just continuing to take it, you started to give it. And now if I was answering that question, I would be talking about, you know, the dinner in Cabo that you prepared and surprised me with. And I mean, there's just so many that you're right. I do think it's more shared now than it used to be.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing about us too is it's not like, I mean, obviously like the people that you're involved with professionally and like that watch this show and everything, they see like you know, the glitz and the glamour, and I hear stories like Chicago and Cabo, but like there's more to the romance between the two of us that's actually, you know, collectively better because it's the smaller stuff, right? It's the little things. It's like the, you know, the hugs and kisses all the time, right? And the nice words all of the time, always reminding each other like how important we are and everything like that. So
little things like just this, like making breakfast, but you always make sure I was making breakfast, which is kind of funny because that's evolved in our world too.
A lot has changed like that, which is crazy.
I'm making breakfast and, you know, you come up behind me and kiss me, you know, on the neck and like stuff like that, which is always, that's even more impactful, you know, when it's a daily thing. So.
Yeah, like to pinpoint one thing, it's probably those bigger cool things that we've done, you know, over the course of our relationship. But as far as like that kind of stuff isn't going to like make or break a relationship, right? Like that, if we had those big things without all of those little things, it would,
such a great point.
It wouldn't be enjoyable at all. I mean, maybe a little bit, but nothing deep.
No, it's a great point. It's a great point. You can't have those big moments and not have all the little ones in between.
Right. My turn.
It's your turn. Whatever you want.
All right, let's go. This is a good one.
Oh, geez.
What is your favorite Christmas movie or favorite Christmas tradition?
Wow. Throw it on the floor.
Throw it on the floor.
Okay, so fun fact, I'd never watched Christmas movies before meeting you, and I had never had any Christmas traditions really before meeting you. So I can really only speak to the last several years. I think my favorite Christmas movie, and I'd be interested to see if you thought this, was Four Christmases.
Yeah.
Because
it was that or one other one, but go ahead.
That's definitely one of the favorites. Because if whoever's watched that, it's about a couple that, you know, say they don't want to get married and don't want kids, and then, you know, she has her parents are divorced, and his parents for another episode. His parents are divorced, and they go do this Christmases, and but they travel on Christmas instead and lie to their families about it and stuff. So I like that because I think I can relate a little bit to that episode, going to multiple homes and all of that's like, and Christmas traditions, like, I mean, I would say there's so many that now we have, you know, developed, like going to the play and seeing the Nutcracker, and, you know, it's so special. I never did anything like that prior, and going to your mom's and dad's on Christmas Eve is like so special because it's just fun, and it's easy, and it's not like you have to be anyone that you're not or say the right things. And so, I mean, there's just so many. For me, what would you say? Because you did come. That's, I think, an interesting dynamic that we have that is so different. But that's what we have always said. Our differences work. You know, Anthony comes from a phenomenal family. His parents are still together. Your dad, your uncle, your sister, your brother are all doctors. He's an attorney. So like everyone's educated, you know. And then my side of the family was very blue collar, and so we didn't have a lot of the same things, but I think that's why I have such an appreciation for your family as well, because I didn't have that. But what would be some of yours? Because I know your mom was like the queen of traditions.
Tradition.
Yeah.
Well, first, how funny is it that your favorite is Four Christmases? And if you remember the quiz that Lexi sent us, our sister-in-law, remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you took it. It was like, what character are you most like?
And I got Kate, which was Reese Witherspoon, which I've also always kind of like, saw myself in because she's little and she's blonde, but yet she's a powerhouse. Like, I always love that.
Yeah, I think as far as movies for me, it's either Home Alone 2 or Love Actually.
Yeah,
Home Alone 2 is really cool because just how sweet he is and how nice he is, like to that pigeon lady, and how he like, you know, at the end gives up all those gifts and goes and makes sure that like she's okay. Like
gives her the turtle.
I always cry at that one. You know that. When the scene when he's like wishing for his family to come back, and he talks specifically about his mom, because I'm obviously close to my mom. And then she appears there, and you know it's very touching. And then Love Actually, obviously, like we always
cry every time.
We watched that like the first time that we watched it. Remember when we had bought should I tell that story?
Oh yeah, tell it.
We had bought our Christmas gifts for each other that year. We bought each other the same exact thing, which was really crazy because it was they were trips to London. So. And neither of us had talked about going to London, right?
No, I just knew you loved soccer.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to get it for you. And why did you think to get it for me?
I honestly, I can't even remember why. I don't know if it was because like we had watched that movie or what, but if you remember that night, like Christmas Eve when we got back, we watched that movie. and like we were both dropping like little comments to each other throughout the movie. And meanwhile, like she's dropping comments about how cool it would be to go to London. I'm thinking like, oh, this is awesome. Like I got the best gift ever. Meanwhile, you were basically like hinting it to see how I would pick up. So, and then I would say like, oh yeah, that would be really cool. Like, look how cool that city is. And then you were thinking like, oh, slam dunk, you know? So that was cool. And then as far as traditions, like, I mean, I always, Christmas Eve, I always love being like with my family. I think it's always so much fun. Especially now, like it was always cool when I was younger and my brother and sister were younger. And then when my kids and my brother and sister's kids were younger. And then now with my brother having his two young girls, Hadley and Brinley, it's so cool to like kind of get that side of like Christmas back into the fold, because it's like the ooh and the ah of like, you know, Santa and the presents and everything like that, which is always cool. And then as far as ours, like this week, I know this is recorded, you know, this is not going to be shown until Christmas, but our quote unquote Christmas week that we have together, where we go shopping, go to the Christmas at the Princess, which is amazing. And then the Nutcracker, which is always cool too. So all that stuff. It's just such a fun time.
Good. Yeah, it is a fun time. All right, I'll go. Okay. Oh, this is easy. Who is funnier, you? And what is one funny moment you can recall? Oh my gosh, there's so many. The most recent one. Do you have Christmas socks on?
I do.
Oh, that's so good. Santa drinking.
Oh shoot, yeah.
At a beach.
I think your mom
He's
got
at the
me
beach
these,
though.
actually. I think your mom got me those. Yeah.
I mean, just last night. I mean, was
Wait,
it
are you
last
asking
night?
me or am I?
Oh no, I'm just talking.
I'm just teasing.
The funniest moment. I mean, there's been so many. Like,
yeah, last night. Or you're talking about Monday night.
Was that Monday night?
Monday night with Rain Man?
I was laughing so hard.
Yeah.
I was like, I am gonna have mouth like laugh lines because of this.
That was funny.
So he does impressions. He does like, he'll like be in a character, but then talk about real life or vice versa. And so okay, you can probably share it, but basically, obviously people don't know all of this. Yeah. So I am very organized. I like, okay. It doesn't
obsessive compulsive.
No. It doesn't have to be this way, but I do like a clean space. I like everything very neat, because I always say I have a lot of chaos in my mind. So I like this environments that I'm around to be very simple, lined up, very lean. So my refrigerator, if you would open my refrigerator, all of the drinks are by like height, from tall to small. All of the, this makes it sound so bad. All of the logos are faced out.
It makes it sound so bad.
But it just looks very clean. It looks very neat. And it, like you say, I always have things that you know where they are. I always have extras of things.
Sam's Club.
He calls the bathroom Sam's Club, and he calls the closet IKEA, because I have like every blanket you could possibly want. So if guests come over, they have different types of pillows they can choose from, different blankets they can choose from. We never run out.
It's really crazy.
So I was trying to, the groceries came, and God love Jennifer, she normally handles this, so you haven't seen me do this in a while. But when the pop comes, which we only drink Zevia because it has stevia, I can put them out in a certain way so that the whole case will come out standing up straight. And for some reason, it was like put in wrong. So I had it right. And then when I opened it, they all just went all over the island. And I was like, oh man. And so I was flipping them all up.
Yeah, but they didn't really go all over the island. A couple of them like came out the wrong way.
They didn't stand up straight.
One or two of them.
That was the point. And so they weren't standing up straight. And so I was just getting them situated. And I don't even know what we were talking about. We were just talking about normal stuff.
Yeah.
And he starts impersonating me to anybody that's old enough that has seen Rain Man.
Yeah.
And we were laughing so hard because there was a little truth to that.
Yeah, it was really
Because what were you saying?
I was saying, gotta have the lines. Gotta definitely have the lines. Gotta be the lines.
Faces out,
face up. Face up.
So there are all kinds of those moments where he'll pull a movie from his mind and somehow bring a line in that's relative.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to do any of that stuff.
And then we just keep going. One leads
one to another.
And there have been times where and it's like rather frequently where we like are laughing to the point of like not being able to talk.
Yeah.
Like not being able to breathe, because it's just so freaking funny. But don't sell yourself short either. You're pretty freaking funny too.
Not really.
You are. You say, but that's good. See, because funny people aren't supposed to admit that they're funny, so that's good. Yeah, you are though. You're funny. You're funny at home, and you're funny on stage. You have good. You have good jokes on stage, and I'm sure you have good jokes here too.
Oh, look at Grant nodding his head. He says I'm funny.
See,
too.
isn't she funny? See, I'm telling you, don't sell yourself short. You
All
got to
right.
embrace it, right?
All right.
Embrace it.
Well, that was good.
My turn?
Your turn.
All right. What one thing I am, what is, who wrote these? What is one thing that I am most afraid of?
Oh, so that would be me.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, geez.
You.
Yeah, you're asking me.
Yeah. So what's one thing?
Oh, about you.
I don't know. It says what one thing.
Am I afraid of? So
I
that's
am.
you. So
Okay.
you're talking.
What one thing am I most afraid of?
Or are you answering it for me?
I don't know. Whatever you want to do. We can both throw it. Let's both throw it out there, right? Why? Are you afraid of something in particular?
No, I thought you were going to say something that I was afraid of, and I was curious what you were going to say.
Oh.
That's what I thought the question was.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of,
then-
however you want me to do it.
Go ahead, do that, and then I'll do what I think you're afraid of most.
Oh, what do I think you're most afraid of?
Yeah.
Failure. Yeah, I think failure, I mean, generally speaking, failure, but then like in different areas of your life, like the shelter, you have a lot of fears with regard to that. Your animals, you have a lot of fears with regard to that. Like your loved ones, you have a lot of fears. But I think in general, your driving fear is a fear of not only failure, but like of a like not meeting your potential almost. Like not meeting your potential, not like doing everything you're supposed to do on this earth before we leave it, like that kind of stuff. I think that's your biggest driving fear, generally speaking.
You're right. And that's why when you said failure, I was kind of like, where's he going with this? Because I definitely am not, like, I'll try anything, I'll do anything. Like most people that have fear of failure, it's like fear because of what if other people are going to say or what are they going to do? And that's definitely not me. But it is very much like I want to kick over as many cans as I can, because sometimes you don't always know exactly why you're here on this earth. And I do think also that there's an evolution of that purpose and reason. Yeah. And I am so desperately afraid that I don't become everything that I'm supposed to become in order to have the impact that I'm supposed to have. Yeah. But you're right. My dad, my animal, those are all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are more physical, real.
I've heard you give the example, and I heard David Goggins give the example too of like when you die and when you're going to heaven and when you finally meet God, and if God had this like totally different person that you should have been, that you would have been if you would have like done everything you're supposed to do, I think that is like you tearing up. Aww. You okay?
Yeah, it's true though.
Yeah, I think that's your driving source, and I think that's a great one. I think that's a healthy one, and I think more people should have that. And I think I'm starting to adopt that a little bit more recently, thanks to you. I never looked at life that way, right? I mean, not that I'd ever like denied God or anything or my potential, but I'd never like planned it out that way, right? Or I never looked at it. Maybe it's a little bit of you, and it's a little bit of getting older too. I never looked at life as being like so finite, So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great one, and I think that's why when you adopt that philosophy and that's your driving force, that the failures in between are insignificant. Meaning that, like, not that this was a goal of ours because we took it off but like if I was trying for the New York Times and we didn't hit it and it would have been Wall Street Journal, to me, that failure in the scheme of things is so short, and you can speak to this truth. It is so short in my mind, like, oh, we didn't hit that. And then boom, I'm on to the next thing. It's almost like I don't even acknowledge it.
Yeah. Well,
because
remember what you did when you did it.
Yeah. I still wasn't really that happy. No, I'm kidding.
No, I mean, you were happy, but
I was happy.
But I think that's relevant because we were in Cabo for Thanksgiving whenever the list came out, and we were with your dad and with Janelle, which incredible time. Incredible, like seeing your name on there. What were you, 3? You were the third. Yeah, you beat like big time names, and we finished breakfast. Everything was perfect. And we went back to the room and you want to tell them?
Yeah.
You started crying.
Yeah, and it wasn't, to me, I wasn't crying, and you can speak to why you think this. It wasn't because it was like a failure at all. Like it was a success on every level. New author, massive advance, all the lists. We didn't just hit Wall Street. It was, Barnes and Amazon and all of that. And it wasn't even that. It was more about the realization that I had worked so hard for something. I said no to so many opportunities. I wasn't present at so many other things. And then all of a sudden we get there, we cross the finish line, and it just didn't have the depth of feeling that I thought it was going to have.
Yeah.
I knew that it was going to create massive impact, but I just thought like, oh my gosh, I said no to so many things, and I worked so hard to so many things. I was working on vacation when we were in Dorado with your parents, writing and editing the book.
Yep.
And then, oh my gosh, like, it didn't give me the feeling that I thought it was going to give, which actually was tears of that, but almost tears of the recognition that goes back to any single time that I deviate from that in life, any time that I'm like, okay, maybe this is going to make me happier, or this is going to make me more fulfilled. And I actually switch my target from just becoming who God created me to be and being and kicking over every freaking stone that I can kick on earth. And I think that something else is going to move the needle more, I get disappointed.
Yeah.
So to me, it was almost the realization that's like, Candy, this isn't going to be it. Like, you just need to keep doing, even though you don't fully know what this next chapter looks like. You just need to keep going and keep kicking over those stones. Is that what you kind of thought?
I think, similar.
And exhaustion too.
Similar. Well, definitely exhaustion, because you worked you worked harder than I've even seen you work, because you worked, like you said, we were on trips. You were working. You were always working. I think, and I think it's similar to what you're saying, just maybe put in a different way, is I think that you had that like feeling of sadness and tears, like, because it was like a subconscious realization that like that wasn't necessarily something that was on that path to meet your full potential of what you're supposed to be doing here on earth. Not that it's not important, because it's really cool, and your next book's going to be really good too. And that's all great, and that's all very important, right? But I think, as because you have so many other purposes, right? You have so many other roles that you play in life other than just being an author. And I don't say just meaning that it's like insignificant, because it's really cool. But I think subconsciously you knew that particular quote unquote achievement was not something that necessarily needed to be kicked over to be this ending potential that you want to be.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it is. It's I do feel like it was, I always feel like if it's on your heart, it's on your heart for a reason. It was on my heart. There was so many doors that just got kicked open for me that I was not my own doing. So I did feel like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I do think it was something I was supposed to do. I just don't think it was the magnitude of what my intellect thought it was going to be. That it was actually just one more stone, and it wasn't like a magnificent feat, right?
Yeah.
Like I thought it would have been in my mind. And I think that the books, the second book and the third book, like I just think that those are ways that I can impact and touch and help more people. That I really felt like I was going to get something, and I realized that wasn't the case. It was literally, it's me pouring into other people. And when you don't do that, like, I know that might sound crazy to say that I didn't have that realization, but when you don't do something ever before and then you do it, you have to do it in order to get the result, to know the data and the experience of how you feel about it. So
absolutely.
I don't even remember what the question was, but I think it's
I don't remember either, but I think it's your turn, isn't it?
Is it my turn?
Yeah, because it was about what you're afraid of. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say then, I think obviously your fear is probably what most parents' fear is with your kids.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like making sure that they're safe, they're healthy, that they're okay in life, that you've done all the right. Like to me, that's what I always think.
I mean, for a parent, and I'm sure that your dad and your mom and my parents and all parents will say this, that like not only like the safety and the health and everything, that's obviously like very, very important, but I think that like another fear that I have is that I'm not showing up for them, or that I'm not like the dad that I'm supposed to be, or, because you know, I mean, sure, there's like books about it and stuff, but let's be honest, it's such a moving target that there's like no playbook to being a parent. Like you kind of just, you have to operate out of love and out of what your experiences are. And, you know, so, but it's very difficult to do it if you care so much, which most parents do, that you're afraid that you're not like you're not being what you need to be for them. You know, that you're not showing up like you need to show up for them. Because let's be honest, as parents, we have so many issues as well. All of our own battles, all of our own problems, right? And it's tough to put those things aside or use them as ammunition, and you know, to help them in their experiences. You know, so I think that's a big thing too. You know, and obviously all you, I mean, all my loved ones, like I'll, you know, I'm concerned all of the time, right? Yeah. So, but yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. It's good. All right. Which one of us is messier?
Why are you looking like, oh, this is an easy one?
It's easy. Next.
What? Yeah, she is pretty messy, so.
Oh, get out.
It's definitely me.
Yeah.
I'm not too bad.
I'll tell you, honestly, you've gotten better with that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you have.
Cool.
You have. I definitely think. And it's nothing crazy. Like you're not like a pig and you're not a hoarder. Like certain things I would be like, oh, this needs to change. But you definitely are more laid back with a lot of things. Yeah. And that also goes with messes. But I think, like I said, I think you got better.
That is like the politest way I've ever heard anybody tell me that I'm messy.
But you've gotten better.
Yeah.
All right, you're up.
You're definitely not messy, Rain Man. Rose, labels.
Yeah, know. I do like
but
it.
We're
neat.
good. Hey,
I like it neat. But and you actually like it.
Even that, you know, we've always said that all of our similarities is what creates our bond together, but all of our opposites complement each other. Yeah. And I think that's one example of like when I lovingly was making fun of you for being like Rain Man, I think that also gives you like, okay, it doesn't need to be perfect every time, right? Just like, you know, you rubbed off on me in being a little more organized. Right. Not only cleanliness, but organization is overall.
Yeah.
Organization,
like life. The other day.
Life organization. What were we working on the other day?
He texted me and he's like, I'm going to tell you something that's going to really turn you on.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah.
And I got
my little lever. I got my lever now.
Tell him what it was.
It was QuickBooks. I was like, are you alone? Didn't I text you, are you alone? Are you alone? She's like, yeah, why? With like the eyes, you know? Ooh. I'm like, are you sitting down because you're about to be turned on? And she's like, what the heck is going on?
Eyes, fire. I was like, what are we getting?
I was like, guess what I'm doing? And I was like, I'm working on QuickBooks.
It's like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. And then there was something else too. QuickBooks and something else. What was I talking about? Something else.
The taxes with the
deductions
and
deductions and everything like that. Oh yeah, the capital gains versus the income tax. Yeah. You were like, oh.
I was like, he's like, are you so turned
I can't wait till you get here.
Yeah. Oh, so again, crazy. Those differences end up complementing. Yeah. And I think it's when I really think that in relationships in general, and obviously this is far more your expertise, but I think that if you have two people that just genuinely overall respect and appreciate the other person, that even when you yourself find that the other person is doing something a little different and maybe it's not the same way you do, it's like it comes from a different place where like you're way more laid back than I am. So that isn't something that I'm like, oh, he's so laid back. It's actually helped me adopt and view life in a different way and see it a little more relaxed. And I think you would probably say the same, that there's probably things that you needed to not be so relaxed in. And you're not because you see it through my. So I think that that's the beautiful part of when relationships are done wrong. There's so many things that can happen and it can be so detrimental. But when they're done right, you actually are growing and evolving, not just as individuals, but you're also growing and evolving together, which is making that unit stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's like anything. It's like the snowball effect, right? It's like you can either take your problems in a relationship and they can really snowball downward, like big time, and turn into like massive, massive things. Or you can take your differences and have enough respect for the other person. You actually try to learn not only like how to best like like be valuable to you in the relationship, but also to learn from you. And then that it snowballs into more, where it just turns into almost like you're always looking at ways to like modify and improve, right? And when I think we both are very good at that. And I think that when you have that outlook, it is really cool, because it makes what already started off as a great relationship to like continue to get better over time, as opposed to like a lot of people, continue to get worse over time because they neglect learning those little things or making those little adjustments, right? And I think it's, I think it's made both of us like better people too, like better all around people. And we've both been able to, you've massively increased my quote unquote success, like, professional success. And I think I've gotten you to look at life in a lot of different ways, right? And not like take everything, not worry about the rose so much. And but I mean, like I don't remember if it was the first question, but one of the first questions was about a Christmas movie or Christmas tradition. Like you would have not been able to answer that question like 5 years ago, right? And that's not obviously like watching a Christmas movie isn't a huge deal in a relationship, but what we're talking about, that's a big thing, is to be able to like, you had enough respect and love for me that you wanted to do something that like I like to do. And now we like love the Christmas time that we do together. It's really cool. So
yeah, and that has been growth. There's almost just been growth in different ways on both sides. Like you said, like success and professionally and business, like I've really helped you. And because I was so strong in that and you weren't, and vice versa, you were so strong in like loving and enjoying life and I wasn't, like it's been a great compliment that, and there's not very many people that could ever grab my shoulders and face me a direction to say, look at this view. To stop and smell the roses.
Stop and smell the roses. Wait, look. Yeah.
Because I would have just been getting off to the car.
I feel like now you're outside every evening.
Oh yeah. Sunsets and sunrises every day.
Yeah. Remember the other day we were saying you were like Benjamin Button because you like lived your life in reverse.
Exactly. I totally lived my life in reverse.
Because she had all this massive success like early on, and like, at 19 and 20 years old when her friends were out like partying and doing crazy crap, you were working, and you were on Christmas, you were working every Christmas Eve, and I think Christmas Day you guys weren't around.
Sometimes,
and then now you've like slowly, like granted you obviously continue to hustle and continue to accomplish things, but I was saying you were like Benjamin Button because you like did it all in reverse, right?
Totally in reverse.
Yeah.
All right, you're up. I think
I'm up. What character traits do you feel are important for people?
That's the question?
Yeah.
What character traits do I feel are important for people to have, I would assume?
Yeah.
Whew. Number one, resilience. I think every single person that has ever existed on the face of the planet have dealt with some traumas, challenges, adversities, that if you allow life to dictate how you handle problems, you're never going to be able to become who you were created to be. I think persistence and resilience are so important. I think that that's a completely underutilized skill that everybody should adopt. I also think that, because it said traits plural, I think that out on the other side of resilience, I would say that, I don't know what this trait would be, but decisive. I think so many people sit on the sidelines of their life and they don't make decisions because they're afraid of failure or of criticism or other people's opinions or what's going to happen. And I think if you just make decisive action and just be a better decision maker, and then you adopt that resilience, you can make faster decisions that might not result in the way that you think they're going to turn out. But if you have resilience, you know that you can just adjust from that mistake and make another decision again. Yeah. So I think you can condense time and be more successful more quickly in any area of your life if you're just more decisive and then more resilient about the outcome. What would you say?
I love it. Well, what do I think of the I think...
I need a caveat. Because I was kindness.
Kindness.
So there needs to be 3. And if not kindness, it needs to be empathy. Because again, you can be decisive, but if you're an asshole, you're just going to be a jerk to everybody. You can be decisive.
Decisive asshole.
Yeah, that's right. you can be decisive and you can have resilience, But if you're not at least kind and have empathy to the people around you, it doesn't mean that you have to agree with them. It doesn't mean that you have to even have them allowed to be a part of your life, but just having kindness and empathy to other people, I think will also tie in with resilience and decisiveness, because if you have empathy for why someone's doing something to you or why somebody says something to you, and you just have empathy for them and you don't react to it, you can continue to have that resilience and decisiveness on your life. And I think it won't pull you off your path as much.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Yeah, it's like we were just talking maybe it might have been last night when we were walking Grace about money being a magnifier of who you are.
Right.
And that's kind of, excuse me, that's kind of like what you said, that, you know, if you're an asshole, you'll just be a decisive asshole. And it's the same thing. If you don't have that kindness and empathy, no matter how decisive you are, how successful you are, it's just going to be, as you climb the ranks, you're going to be worse and worse.
Yeah.
As opposed to more giving and contribution and everything else.
Is there anything you'd add to that?
As far as traits?
Yeah.
I think the most important one, at least for me, and it's one, you know, that I've had problems with during my life, is honesty. You know, I think honesty is huge. Not only honest with like the people around you and the people you love, but being honest with yourself about like positions that you're in, and you know, and I think that might lend a little bit towards decisiveness too, because if you're being, you know, there have been times in my life where I haven't been honest with myself about like the things that were going on in my life that I thought were like okay, and they were not okay, right? And it's hard to be decisive if you're not in that particular moment being honest with yourself that a change needs made or an extra step needs taken, or, you know, something drastic needs to happen. And I think that's how people get comfortable with, you know, bad or subpar situations. But yeah, honesty I think is really important, because what I've noticed is it like, if you're always being honest, then you will attract the people that you genuinely have the connection with, because you're not like just saying things to say things, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then obviously in any relationship, it's it's probably the number one thing, right? And you know, it's different in a parents-child relationship, right? Obviously you do want to be honest, but obviously, like, you know, it's a little different. But I think that's a very important trait.
Yeah, I think that's so good too. And if that's the like basis, the fundamental, the foundation of it, because otherwise you can be, this is interesting how these all tie, because if you are decisive but you're not being honest, you can actually rationalize your way to different decisions more quickly and take yourself down a completely terrible road that you don't want to go down.
100%.
So I think that that's really important too. But if you have that as maybe your foundation, and then you work through all of those other ones, you can really build not just wealth, but a really rich life, which is, I think, what we've talked about. Like, it's one thing to have success. It's one thing to have, you know, love and traditions. But if you don't really find a way to meld them all together, you're not really building that rich life.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's important, and having that honesty and factor too.
Yeah.
That's
and
good.
I think like what we were talking about yesterday morning about, and I don't know how you would phrase this as a character trait, but I think it's very important, is to not like give people who don't love you the ability to control your emotions.
Yeah.
So like the people that either don't know you or don't love you, you cannot by any circumstances give them emotional control over you. Like, you can't, whether it be a client, a coworker, like some Joe Blow on social media who's like making a nasty comment on your stuff, like whoever it is, if they're not like your people who love you and you love, they should have no say in how you feel and how you, you know, feel internally, right? I don't know how you make that a character trait,
Just
but
did
that's
a whole solo on that, so yeah, it's good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, talking about that's good.
Cool. I think it's your turn.
It's my turn. Why do I feel like it's your turn?
I think I just did the traits thing. Remember, you were.
Oh yeah. All right. Name something that you can't stand.
Name something that I can't stand. Oh man, how much time do we have? Man, that's tough. And overall, or like in a particular area? Can you guide me a little bit?
I thought of something.
Why don't you take it?
That we both.
And then maybe I'll be able to add to it.
I actually think something that we both struggle with is deceptive people.
Oh, yeah.
You know, people that are either positioning themselves in some way. And I think
Yeah.
that's your legal background. And I have that like that high justice-ness in me because of
Justiceness?
the shelter high just, whatever that we
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
Actually, who was I just? Pedro mentioned something. He actually called it something where it's like a righteous justification or something.
Yeah.
I get really frustrated when people position either themselves or something that they're selling or something that they're doing in a way that's trying to mislead people for either money, that they're not honest. They spin things a certain way to make it sound better. I would say that's something that we both have struggled with,
Yeah.
especially being on social media and sharing a lot. I think that that's been a struggle. Also, how people like will rationalize certain behaviors to try to, you know, make themselves seem more right or more correct about a
Yeah.
situation. I think that's something that we both struggle with.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think along those same lines is arrogance.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of arrogance at all. You know, I'm always, you know, I've always tried to avoid that. Right. I mean, I'm sure I've shown that quality at some point in my life. Right. But, I don't like it. I don't like, you know, and I know again, that's important too in the social media world. Right. Gratefully, I'm in a area where I don't have to do any of that crap, right? I don't have to like show my successes and like show everything like that I'm doing, and I'm able to be more private, and I really like that as far as my personal life, right? I mean, I'll post pictures of us and stuff, and I don't even think I do most with my kids ever, and that's intentional, right? But I don't have to, and I know some people have to, and I know that like some of the people that do appear to be arrogant are not really those kinds of people. They're just doing that because they think that's how it has to be. But then what it does is then everybody thinks that's how it has to be, right? And then, you know, you get the old adage of people you're comparing your real life to a highlight reel. And that can really screw with some people that are really like in bad places in their life. So again, I know it needs to happen, but I'm not a fan of a lot of that stuff. It just rubs me the wrong way, right?
Yeah, it's the smoke and mirror side of it. It's just the look how great my life is, so I want to sell you this thing so that your life can look as great as mine. And what a lot of those are built on that nobody really talks about. If you remember, this was something that we went through, that I was seeing certain people post stuff, and I'm like, how is that getting like 2,500, remember, like engagements and likes?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, how is that possible in that short amount of time when, you know, the algorithm's always changing and you could be doing the same thing and all of a sudden it just strangles your reach for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, as we started to really peel back the curtain, we would see that those same people that had like 2,500 likes had like 900 views on the same reel. And then it was like, oh my gosh, like, they're paying for all of this.
Yeah.
And then it would be somebody that would say something on a reel that I'm like, that is, you know, it's just regurgitated information from Tony or Brett or whoever.
Yeah.
And then how are they getting 5,000 likes? And that, I think, perpetuates the problem, because then in order to feel like you can compete, people feel that they have to do that in order, because if someone comes to your page and you only have 1,000 people, well, what kind of expert is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, too, and we talked about this, is that like, if they're doing that, and if they have the like propensity to do that, then they probably are also doing the same thing with their numbers and the lifestyle that they're showing people. That it's not, and I'm not saying this to attack anybody. I'm saying it for the people that are perceiving it, to just remember that like, I don't give a crap who you are. Like, even the most successful business people have downs.
Oh yeah.
Like low downs, right? And risks and like decisions that you have to make to like turn things around, like and things like that. But no one ever talks about that stuff. And that's fine, right? I get that. That's not sexy. But like it goes back to wrap it back up, like when you said about deception, you know, it's that's the point where it's like shameful. And if you're doing that stuff with your likes and followers and everything, then chances are you're probably doing it with all of the numbers that you're telling everybody and all of the experience that you're telling everybody too. Yeah. And that just creates like unrealistic expectations and goals for people.
And then I always feel bad for the people that are home watching and observing it, because they think that oh, they're not doing that and they're not getting that. But really, if they just keep doing what they're doing, they're probably going to be far beyond any of those
Yeah.
people that are posing anyways.
Yeah. I
You
don't care
know?
who you are. I mean, it's tough. Like,
It is.
you know, and you and I weren't together when you were going through like your early parts of
Mhm.
entrepreneurship, but like even just recently, you know, over the past few years, like it's brutal.
Mhm.
Like it is brutal. And that is probably why, what was the first character trait you said?
Resilience.
Resilience.
Mhm.
That's why that's so important, because like if you're trying to get into that stuff and you think that everything's just going to be all like happy, you know, and successful, like everybody shows you online, then you're probably not going to be really resilient, because the
Mhm.
first obstacle that comes your way, it's going to be like, what the hell? Am I not cut out for this?
Yes.
Did I do this wrong? Why are they getting success and I'm not? Well, they're getting success because they ripped through all of those obstacles and all of those painful situations, and the nights crying because we don't know what the hell we're doing, or things like that.
And that's why I think it's so important to show that. And I just shared with you this morning, I got that DM from somebody in Europe that was like, I've been following you for several months, and I just love how you don't share like the glammy, like the, you know, highlights that you show yourself in your office. And I'm still doing that 25 years in.
Right.
So like, I think it's important to show that it's not, if somebody is showing you that it's always great, it's kind of like the wealth thing. If somebody's telling you there's no risk and they have the perfect investment for you, run. If somebody's telling you that entrepreneurship is great and they've never made any mistakes and they're doing great, just run, because that's just not the way that it works. Even the people from the most successful families that go and try to start on their own are still going to
it's brutal.
Make mistakes.
It's brutal.
All
right,
you're up.
I'm up.
You're up.
All right. We've been picking from the top. Let's shake them up. Shake them up. What is one of the most difficult things you've been through?
Oh, me or you?
You. What? You always do that when you don't want to answer it. When you want to answer it, you're like, well, let's think about it. And then the second part is, what did you learn through this experience?
Oh my God.
That's gonna get real in here. It's about to get real.
Gosh, there's so many. You know, it's interesting. We talk a lot about the difficulty of like entrepreneurship and starting a nonprofit, and, you know, moving across the country, not knowing anybody, and starting a different company and doing startups and all of that, and scaling and exiting. And those are all really hard things. But I think when you don't have a few personal things handled, I think that it makes all of that harder.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yes, coming out of poverty was difficult. Yes, healing from abuse was difficult. Yes, building companies and opening new locations and doing a nonprofit and all that stuff was difficult. But I think it made it a lot harder because I didn't have my personal relationships right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and not to go into too much of it, but I would definitely say probably the hardest thing was not just the divorce of a relationship, but actually moments within the relationship that I ignored, that I didn't really acknowledge the gravity of the situation a lot of times. I think that carried over and made life more difficult when it really should have been a lot better.
Yeah.
And I think that if we just fast forward, I always say, and anyone that's seen this before, it's because it's the truth. I always say, like, what did I learn from that? Do not rationalize any red flags. Like in a relationship, do not fantasize about somebody's potential. Do not think that this person is going to change, grow, or evolve. See them for who they are right now.
Yeah.
And if you're not okay with who they are right now for the next 5, 10, 15 years, it's probably not the situation for you to be in.
Yeah.
And I think that I would hear a lot of self-help and positive and all of this stuff. And I thought that I could make my situation better, as opposed to just realizing that I wasn't able to, and that I would have saved a lot of years of just hurt and lost time and lost money by not doing what I instinctively knew that I needed to do long before I did. So I think that's the lesson for people. I think that if you try to rush certain things in your life, or you ignore those red flags, you will make your life harder in certain ways.
It's good.
What would it be for you?
It's good stuff. What was it? Most painful?
Difficult.
Yeah.
Most difficult.
Oh, my divorce.
Yeah.
That was like earth shattering. Like telling my kids about the divorce. That was, I mean, the divorce as a whole was just the most devastating thing that's ever happened to me. And telling my kids was the icing on the cake with that like ripped my heart out. Right. And, you know, it was a, you know, it was like destroy. This is crazy to verbalize this, but this is exactly what it was like. It was like destroying someone that really needed to be destroyed and rebuilt, you know, like
Who was that?
me, it like rocked me to my core and destroyed me. But I'm grateful for it because I've rebuilt it as someone that like, that I'm totally different. Like I'm a totally different person. And it's interesting because, you know, you hear all the like cliches about like hardships and they're your biggest strengths and they're this and they're that. And man, it is true. If you have the like lack of ego and patience and strength, like inner strength to do it and the heart to obviously want to, right? And I think that comes with having the people around you that are worth it, right? And that, you know, it was just very tough. Anybody, I mean, you've been through divorce. Divorces are tough. And then when you throw in kids, it's really tough. And like I said, though, it's something that needed to happen. And I'm grateful that it did. And I'm grateful for the pain too, because, you know, if you get by in life being someone who is, you know, not good, not a good person, I don't want to say not a good person because I feel like I was a good person. I just made really bad decisions and I just had a different outlook on life that I shouldn't have had. But if you get by that way your whole entire life, then man, at the end of it, you're going to be really, really, really upset and really devastated. But if you have a situation where you get so bad that you have to like basically destroy it and start over, that, you know, I think that helps. I think that's beneficial to people because it's like being, you know, and obviously marriage isn't like a job, but the metaphor is like being in a job that is, you know, not good, but not horrible enough to leave.
Yeah.
And then you sacrifice great for something that's not good. And then you're there forever. Right. It's like, you know, I obviously do consulting with people going through divorces. And a lot of times when they're going through an abusive relationship, what happens is that the abuser kind of like, you know, it gets bad, then they back off, and then they like do the love bombing, and then it gets bad, then they back off, then it gets bad. So it never really gets bad enough to make that decision to really want to take on like how people are going to view them and where they're going to go now and how they're going to live and financially what are they going to do, right? So they just stay in that bad relationship because it never gets to the breaking point of like, I gotta leave, I gotta get out, right? And it's the same with a lot of things in life. And I think for me, and when I say that, I don't necessarily mean my relationship. I mean me as a person. Yeah. Like it never, you know, I was always kind of just, you know, going through the motions, right? Without intent, without it being intentional. So while it was the most painful thing, it was probably what I needed most to, now that I've responded the way that I've responded. Yeah. Could have went a lot of different ways. Could have responded a lot of different ways. Yeah.
Well, and that's what's an interesting thing, I think, of life is that oftentimes we seek this epicuric and easy life. But what I think people fail to recognize is oftentimes the path through to our greatest potential and the greatest version of ourselves is through a lot of pain.
It's no joke.
Because it has to break you down and cripple you in order for you to be able to rise up on the other side. And I think people try to avoid, as long as they possibly can, ripping that Band-Aid off because our brains can't measure that, what we're going to gain, right? You didn't know 5 years ago, however long it was, that you were going to be this version of you because you can't even conceptualize that person.
Remember we were talking about that the other night.
Like you can't even conceptualize who that person is because everything that you believe right now about who you can become is based on the current circumstances of your life and the past behaviors and circumstances of your life.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important that you have to get through the pain because you don't know who that person is going to be, but you have to trust that there's enough proof of stories like we're talking about that that's what people had to go through to become that person.
Yeah.
And if, back to what we said about me, if you don't become that person, how do you actually know that you're becoming who you were created to be?
Yep.
So to me, I was stuck in that limbo moment where, okay, it's not too bad, it's bad, it's not too bad, it's bad, right? Until you realize that anyone obviously listening to, I just always have to have a caveat of this. Like if you are in an abusive relationship, we do not measure abuse. We do not measure whether it was one hit or one push or like, I think a lot of times people are waiting to like be hospitalized and that's when it's bad. But there's so many other things that happen prior to that that you're ignoring, which is why the Lifetime movie typically happens when you ignore all of those moments of abuse. So if you're listening to this, you need to get out because you don't really realize how bad it is when you're in it until you actually remove yourself from it. But also know that healing is here for you. A new life is here for you, a better version, and you can't even imagine who that person's going to be, and to your testament of what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's not, like I said, it's not just the relationship or the job, it's individual too, it's yourself. That if, and that's why people who, either have like, alcohol problems or drug addictions or whatever, usually to heal, you have to hit rock bottom and you have to like literally be on the verge of like death or, whatever. And it's the same, in people that don't have those issues, but people that want to make a change, sometimes it has to get so bad for you to take that massive step to get better. And if you would have told me that, 10 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to keep living my life the way I want to live my life. But it's true.
I mean, even just 5 years ago.
That's crazy. Remember we were saying.
Just saying. Remember some of
Monday.
the stuff I was saying, like that I had said to you 5 years ago?
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, come on. You're kind of like brushing me off because I had seen this other version for you.
Yeah,
and then,
you always saw me better than I ever saw myself, which was always really great, supportive, and, really good.
Well, sometimes we need other people to have belief in us until we develop in ourselves.
Yeah, and I think you said, I kind of like in my head, I kind of like when you said about not ignoring red flags, like the asterisk is unless you really know that person. Because I mean, I'm sure I gave you a lot of red flags, because I was going through a rough time, but you felt and knew who I was, and you believed who I was at my core, and you weren't wrong, right? So.
I think that's different.
And it's very different.
Because I knew who you were before all the red flags.
And I wasn't abusing you or doing anything like that.
Or anyway.
I was just, an idiot in areas of my life. Yeah. But we were saying, remember that like, Monday, I was saying, man, just think 5 years ago, if you would have told me 5 years ago that I would be where I am right now, mentally, physically, financially, like relationship wise, love, family, relationship, like I would have never been able to conceive that 5 years ago, that was possible where I am right now. Right. So then we started saying, imagine now 5 years from now, what mindset, relationship are we going to have, like relationship with my kids, my parents, the whole thing is out there and possible that I can't even fathom right now. Yeah. And for me, that's mind blowing when you think of it that way, because people think that everything's going to happen overnight. Yeah. But when you stack, you not only stack results, but you stack where you're creating a new person. You're creating like I'm a totally different person than I was 5 years ago. Yeah. So in 5 years, it's nuts.
I know. Well, this was fun.
That was a lot of fun. We have to do it again.
We should, because we have all these questions.
We'll do it. Maybe do it at the house next time.
Yeah, we have all these questions that we didn't get through. So for those of you that are watching when this dropped, Merry Christmas to you from us, from our families. I hope you have a healthy, happy New Year. Wishing you all the success and love in the world. God bless.